Okay, this is about astrology, and you see here we have the Earth in the sky. Here we are with the Earth moving around the sun. And you see in ancient times, man looked up at the sky, and you see what it looked like to him. It looked like the sky was moving. It looks like there was a sky. There really is no sky, you see. There's no physical barrier here. But they thought that there was a dome, a physical dome, and these points of light were on that surface. And that surface was rotating around. And the sun would rise. And we still think of this, we still say the sun is rising, but it isn't. The sun is fixed and the earth is spinning. And so you see this line of night and day actually is, some part is in the shadow, and this shadow moves across the earth as the earth turns. The shadow doesn't move, the earth turns. And so people believed that the sun was rising, and we still call it rising. And in the sky, they saw these points of light, and so they connected them together, like this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. And it looked like a bowl, and they might call it, and here's the handle, so they might call this maybe Ursa Major, or the Big Dipper. And it would look like it would be on this dome and rotating around the earth. And so they saw these various things, and they gave them names like Gemini, Orion, Virgo. And some of these they classified, we'll just pick the number 12 because there are some more than just 12 astrological signs with some beliefs. And what they said is that when the earth was, if you were born when the earth was in this position, and if you look straight through the sun to the other side, that determined your sun sign. So if you saw Gemini or Virgo, the constellation, that would be your sun sign. Well, you see, the dome doesn't really move. What's happening is that the Earth is revolving around the sun, and the sun position relative to the stars doesn't change ever. And there's no change in the sun. Yeah, there's sunspots, but that's not something that's considered in astrological terms. And the relationship of the stars and the sun don't change either. So all the astrological science says is that if you were born in, say, in September, it would say that if you were a Virgo, it would say that you were born on the opposite side of the sun, which would be fall. Is this significant? Well, realize that if you were born in the northern hemisphere, it would be fall, but if you were born in the southern hemisphere, it's spring. And the equator, what about that? You see? So the sun isn't going through any cyclical changes relative to the zodiac signs. The sun is not going through monthly changes on a repeating cycle every year according to a 12-month calendar. The sun does not have a calendar. It does not have that type of variation. and neither do the constellations. The constellations aren't moving. The Earth is moving. The Earth is moving around the sun. And the only significance is that you were born in a certain season. And if you want to look into whether or not this season when you were born in the northern hemisphere affects some personalities, and this is affects some people and their personalities different, and you want to try some correlation, well, at this latitude you have, how are you going to figure out the difference with this latitude, and then latitude in the equator, and then the northern latitudes? I mean, it's just, you see, it's just not astrological. Astrological is just founded on the erroneous view. It's a geocentric view of the Earth in the universe, and we are simply not the center of the universe. And the constellations don't really exist. They're just collection of stars separated by hundreds and millions and thousands of light years, one from the other. But we draw an image to connect the dots, but in fact, this one may be only 1,000 light years away, and this might be 100,000 light years away. There's nothing substantial here connecting these dots. Connecting these dots, there is something substantial. There is physical Earth there. Now, in terms of the planets, when you have a horoscope written for one day, everybody on the Earth, of course, is the same day, and the next day, the Earth and the stars haven't changed. The planets have changed just a teeny little bit. And yet astrology would have you believe that all the Virgos down here in the southern hemisphere are affected the same way with their horoscope for the people in the northern hemisphere. I mean, you take all the people here, and only the Virgos are affected in one way by the planets, and interspersed are the Gemini, and they're affected in a completely different way by all the planets. And then you have Aquarius. And how is this influence coming from these planets in the identical situation? How is it that this identical configuration affects Virgos different than the Gemini? What is radiation? What is the substance? What is the energy that is somehow, this energy is coming and affecting these people standing side by side, but it selects out what boundary is there between this individual, Joe and Jack and Mary, Gemini, Virgo, and Aquarius, that they are selected out of a population, and you have billions of people around the Earth. And how is it there are only 12 categories, and these are distinct categories, that the Virgos will be affected in one way? How is this energy or whatever this is supposed to be coming, this influence? If there's an influence from the planets, it's like from the constellations that don't exist. What is the energy? What is the influence? What is the physical matter, like the particles coming out of the sun? There's particles coming. And what is coming out of here, the influence that it affects people only in 12 different ways, and it selects out. These people can be standing within a few feet of each other, and supposedly it will affect one individual who's a Virgo different than another one who was born in a different season. Where's the influence changing? How is this? If you shine a beam of light on somebody, And those who, and this is literally what's coming. There's reflected light coming from the planets. How is this reflected light changing somebody who was born different, that it's changing who was born in autumn, changing somebody who was different, who was born in May, in springtime? There's just no change in the energy. This energy that's coming here, there are no particles coming from these planets. The only thing that's coming in here is the gravitational attraction, which is minuscule, and and reflected light from the sun. How is that going to single out Virgos in a room full of people and affect the Sagittarians from a difference, when it's the same identical beam of reflected light and the gravitational energy has no significance? But people believe that the planets have effect, but realize that somebody down here, and then the moon, of course, the deal about the moon is there is obviously a gravitational attraction with the moon. And they want to say that the moon has phases that it goes through. Well, you get the same thing about the planets singling out individuals on the Earth because of their date of birth. I mean, and if you think that's reasonable, I just don't know how to approach that. But there is a influence of the moon, and people think about it. And some people say that the tides move because of the moon, and and we're 80% water. So look, think about that. Isn't that something? Think about. Well, look. The gravitational attraction on a water molecule in the ocean is the same as it is in your body. And the gravitational attraction on a water molecule in your body is the same as a molecule of bone. Or the table in the room. It undergoes the same changes in gravitational attraction that the tides do. It doesn't move. So where is the significance that you're 80% water have anything to do with the gravitational attraction on the moon? It's just a person who has a little bit of science and just not enough. And then there are influences of the moon. They've shown that in the stock market correlation. Again, it's only statistical. It is in nature, but there are, and they report in a full moon people acting funny with police reports and stuff, but there is physical laws of physics and experimentation that show that this is true. And there's no mystical thing about it, however. The reflection of the light of the sun affects the ionization levels in the atmosphere of the Earth. And it's well demonstrated that when you have positive ions, heightened positive ions in the atmosphere, it has a depressing effect and disorganizing effect on people. And there are various winds around the world that, like the Foon, the Santa Ana, and Israel has one that I've read that and these are very strong influences because of the positive ions, that they don't like their soldiers to fight when this heightened positive ion concentration is present. And I have lived in San Diego, California, USA, and with their Santa Ana winds blow, and the heat, and it can blow for 3, 4, 5 days, and it's very uncomfortable being in that. And this effect of heightened, it's the same way when approaching a thunderstorm. The heightened positive ion creates depressing, or I don't know how to describe it, effects on people. And then in the there is a negative ion heightened, which affects people, and it gives them a level of optimism. People work better. This is well studied in banks and other organizations, that when the negative ion concentrations are heightened, people error rates go down by as much as 50%. People feel better. And, all kinds of things. It has been demonstrated many times, and there are positive ion generators that you can buy for your home. And as far as the moon is concerned, the ionization levels this has been known for decades, affects the transmission distance that radio stations can broadcast, that they can be received at heightened conditions as the ionization levels changes, more or less, with the levels of the ionization, whether it's positive or negative, in the atmosphere. So the effects of moon but these are not astrological considerations. Astrological considerations are basically beliefs. There is no physical evidence of any substance, particles, or radiation changes, and that's all there is, folks. If you have planets, wherever the planets are out here, the only thing there's nothing mystical or magical or imperceptible. I'm sorry, some things are imperceptible to us, but whoops, what happened? You've got only two things coming from bodies in the universe to the Earth, and that is, you have energy, some kind of radiation, or you have gravitational forces. That's it, folks. You want to calculate the planet goes from here to there, and this one from there to there, and one person out of 12 will be affected this way, and one person, and the other person down here who's a Virgo will be affected in the same way. There's nothing changed in the radiation of that planet. Nothing has changed. The sun is in the same position relative to that planet. Nothing has changed. And there are no particles, physical particles, coming from that planet to affect anything like there are from the sun, to affect anything on the Earth. That's all there is, folks. There's nothing mystical. Astrology is based on mythology. It's something that theories were concocted by prehistoric man to explain the universe. And it's just like medicine back then. With the medicine doctors, we now have people who can cure many diseases. Medicine doctors, they thought, sometimes the person would get better and they would thank the medicine doctor, and sometimes they wouldn't. That doesn't say there aren't some cures and plants and things that are used that are not effective, because there are some of those. But in terms of astrology, there's nothing coming from this object except what you see, and that's the light right there. This is a satellite picture on Google, and it's showing the light, and that's all there is, folks. There's no particles coming from that planet. Nothing. The planet isn't changing in any way. And it's going to be the same way tomorrow, just like the sun or a star, same tomorrow. And yet there's going to be a new horoscope. Right. Okay. Like the Navajo proverb says, it's hard to wake people who are pretending to be asleep. And with that, it's time for me to go to bed.